All right, everyone, welcome back to the Why You Overeat podcast. And I am with another special guest today, Paige, who is a former client of mine who I've not actually spoken to for about a year, but just kindly agreed to do a conversation today. How are you doing,
Yep.
Paige?
I'm good, thank you, Sam. How are you?
Amazing. I'm amazing. And yeah, I was just saying off air before. Sounds all professional, doesn't it? But just
Yeah.
off recording before. And the one thing I love about the people who I work with on my program was we kind of maintain this relationship, and people often dip in and dip out with me even after they've done that coaching and they've achieved that transformation. And they just update me on what's going on in their life.
Mhm.
You've done that multiple times, and it's great to catch up with you. I know obviously you've kindly agreed to come on today and just do a little bit of a talk about the things that you learn on the coaching program, what you experience, and how your life has changed now. So, if you're ready, we can maybe get into it, Paige.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
no problem.
Okay. So the first question I normally ask is, before you started this whole journey of personal development and looking at your relationship with food, what would you say was the main thing that got you to realize I maybe need to get some help with this? What was going on at that time?
I think it was shortly after COVID and the lockdowns and everything that, I started to stumble upon, like, loads of your little, like, short videos on Facebook and social media and stuff, and I was in a pretty low place, like, I wasn't happy with myself, I was working myself into the floor, I thought the only worth that I had was being good at career and, like, I had a real strong problem with the scales and like the scales controlling me and then eating to feel better and then like feeling really guilty after doing that and restricting and starving myself afterwards. So I was at a place where I just really didn't like myself anymore. I didn't know who I was. I wasn't very confident and like I have always been quite a confident person. I've always been quite secure in who I was and I was just at a point where I can remember sitting on my bed and just ringing you and being like, I just help me. I can't do this anymore. Just from seeing you talk on videos and things without knowing you at that point, you said a few things and I was like, that like really sat with me. That really made sense. There were all these your whole idea about COVID and the isolation and the fact that it like isolated us in our own heads and changed how we looked at the world and things like that, and the fact that you would talk about and like almost a need not being met, and that's why you eat, and that's why it's there. And I was just sold, I think. So I was like, yep, that's for me. And then that conversation that we first had, you just always come across as really genuine and really like helpful and concerned and wanting to help. And I think I just needed someone in my corner that wasn't necessarily someone that I knew, because a lot of the time, and I'm sure you know this about me, if someone I know very well gives me a compliment or tells me something, I'm like, you're just playing lip service to me. That's like, you're just saying that because you have to. I just needed that external accountability and validation, but also like just someone to listen. Because I think because I'm an only child and my parents did put career before everything, I think I grew up in a world that was like very much me having to solve my own problems, and I just needed an outlet because I couldn't solve them anymore.
Appreciate you sharing that. And like so many people who do work with me, the reason that they struggle with their eating habits, it's what you said, it's some sort of unmet need.
Mm.
When you first started working with me, it was just after the COVID, wasn't it? And that was a very difficult time. And so many people reached out to me in the years after that and went, Sam, I actually realized and put the hand up during that time. I definitely either developed emotional eating tendencies or I finally realized I was one, because when there was no other distraction and there was no other noise, that's when the food noise started. So at that point, before you joined the program, what kind of diets had you followed? What did you try and what did you try and do to solve the problem of emotional eating or even just overeating before that didn't work?
Everything. I'd done Slimming World, I'd done Weight Watchers, but I learned like to cheat on them very quickly. So I learned that not recording certain things was almost like I hadn't done it, but I had, and done Slim Fast. I'd done like just starve yourself, restrict yourself to the extreme. I'd done the whole I want to be a hardcore gym person, but then would not have the time because of work and things to be able to get that in, and then feel really guilty about that. So I was just at a point where I was very obsessed with food, and I know you talk a lot now about food noise and things like that, and, I would just I'd get to a point at the end of the day where I'd have a really hard day because 'cause I'm a teacher, and I don't know if, like, your audience wouldn't be aware of that, but and I know teachers get, like, a love or hate relationship. They get a really good rap or a really bad rap, but you are constantly dealing with small people's emotions and then having to navigate your own emotions, and at the end of a very challenging day, I would just be like, "I'm just gonna eat 4 cakes to make myself feel better," or whatever, and I can
Mhm.
remember when I went into teaching as well, a lecturer saying, "Teaching's gonna make you fat because it's always someone's birthday, there's always food around, there's always this, that, and the other." So it's one of those, I don't know, I just started to associate food with making myself feel calm and stable at work, and then I was taking that into my personal life as well, but then again having the attachment of guilt and shame on it, and I just couldn't see past that, and no matter what diet I tried, Slimming World, Weight Watchers, whatever, I'd get to a certain point where I'd just be like, "Fuck it, I can't do this anymore."
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, you remember me on the program. There's a range of different ladies who are on the coaching program, but there's certain demographics of people who just jump out at me where I'm like, that's more of a theme than I care to imagine. And one of them is like the high performing career person who's got a I've got a lot of doctors on the program. I've got
Mhm,
teachers. I've got carers who work in like, old people's homes, and lawyers. I've got, people who are in the service industry who are just constantly dealing with everyone else's problems. They've got a to-do list as long as their arm every day. They're worried about other people's emotions and they're in service to other people. Those people tend to struggle with comfort eating on a night time. And when you first joined the program, after a couple of weeks of communicating with you, I was like, yeah, that is your main barrier. If you're not organized with work because of how challenging and overwhelming it is, if you're not organized with your life and food and this, you're going to come home and you're going to really struggle. So
yeah,
the best results we saw with you were early on, Paige. Obviously, we did all the mindset stuff and we'll get into that later on. But the initial results that you got, it was just getting organized with your life and not
yeah,
allowing work to impact outside. And that required you to set radical boundaries. I remember having
yeah,
multiple conversations with you about people pleasing, doing extra work because you wanted to be validated for going above and beyond, and saying yes to things that you didn't want to do, and neglecting your self-care outside of work. That was the main thing that I remember from working with you. And
yeah.
when we worked on that, that's when everything started getting better, wasn't it?
Yeah, I remember the one when you were like, "Why don't you use the assistant that you've got?" And I was like, "'Cause I just feel bad about asking her to do the work." And you were like, "But it's her job, Paige." And I was like, "Oh yeah, we'll do that." And I think it's when you're in an environment where it's praise driven and you're like being recognised as I was ahead of year quite quick. I was 24 when I became a head of year, and I can remember being like, "Ah, my life's over now because I've reached my, like, life achievements and stuff." I think it's quite hard when you have, I think we talked about it before, like, this perfectionist personality of being like, "I've got to do everything, I've got to make sure everything is done," to a point that it is up to my standard, and my standard is, like, 3 times higher than anyone else's standard, and I think it was like the one of the main things I learned from you is letting go, like just taking a step back and letting go. And I don't have to be the solution to all the problems. I can let it play out naturally. I can like just let go of it, let go of the control element. And I think that played a big part in my eating as well because we've talked about this a million times.
The control thing.
Yeah,
Many people who struggle with their relationship with food, I hate to label them as this, but they're control freaks. Whether
yeah,
that's trying to control people around them, control themselves, control their body, control their emotions. Think
yeah,
about why we may overeat. Well, we're pushing down feelings we don't want to feel,
yeah,
feelings that we may be judging as we are not allowed to feel them. So that could be anxiety, that could be weakness, it could be vulnerability, it could be
yeah,
criticism, it could be anything, and how much
yeah,
of that is self-inflicted. So again, I've seen the best results with you on your journey when you took kind of held that mirror up and went, well, where am I putting pressure on myself? And
yeah,
when you realize just to let go of some of the extra things you were putting pressure on yourself with, you had the mental headspace to respond to your emotions, to do the self-care, to actually put your own needs first. And that's when you
yeah.
started getting the results, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was that whole ask for help, and that I think that was the biggest thing because I always saw asking for help as like a weakness and a vulnerability and whatever. And I can remember having a conversation with you where you were like, you can't do this all on your own. Like, you need to ask for help, whether that's from my partner, whether that's from people at work, whether it was you. Because I think you remember this, I used to feel really guilty about the emergency calls because I was like, but I'm not an emergency. I don't need them. And you got me into a schedule of being like, just book one in anyway because you might need it that week. And I was like, but I'm taking that away from someone else and blah 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 blah. And I can remember like one of the benefits about you is the whole idea of if I'd had a problem that week, because I can remember one of the calls where we were like set up to do the usual, like, how's your week been? What's your challenges been? The program that you go through, and you just saw me and you pulled the slide up and then just put it to the side and then was like, just talk, just tell me what's going on, what do you need? And I think that's the benefit of this program as well. Yes, it's about emotional eating, yes, it's about recovering from like binge eating and things like that, but also like you're a person, you recognize when people need help and support, and that might not necessarily fit the program, but you still do it anyway. And that's one of the things that always sits with me. Like, you were like, you say this all the time on social media, that your clients almost become friends, and it's like you've got a personal investment in them, and that is one thing that I really valued, because I think if you didn't have that, I'd just like left the program at like 3 months. And I can remember talking to you about at the end of the 3 months, because I was essentially a 3 month starter, wasn't I? The 12-week program. And then I was saying to you, like, what happens at the end of the 12 weeks? I'm not ready for this to be done, and I'm not ready for like to not have this support.
Yeah.
And you were like, we can work on it. We can do what we need to with it. Like, don't stress, don't panic. And I think is that constant reminder as well. So like, yes, you come to the program originally with a goal in mind for like food, overcoming food addiction and overcoming like body image issues, but you walk out with so much more. Like, you walk out with, I have had 2 babies since. My body is not necessarily where I want it to be right now, but I am equally not in the mindset of 4 or 5 years ago of like beating myself up over that. Like, I have a great appreciation for my body now and everything that it's gone through, and it will get to where I want it to be, but I don't need to like bully myself for doing that, if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. And I always see this, like, the eating stuff is the tip of the iceberg. When someone first works with me, I'm going through everything. It's like, where's their self-esteem at? You know, how are they judging themselves? What experiences that they've had from the past that are clouding their judgment when it comes to a relationship with food? What levels of pressure are they putting on themselves? Their organization and their personal life? Are they doing self-care? The eating habits is just a natural side effect of all those things.
Yeah,
So you already kind of answered one of my own questions, Paige. I was literally about to ask you, what was the main things about working with me in the program that took you by surprise? Because most people are like, oh, it should just be a diet. I thought you were just going to tell me what to eat, but it's so much more than
yeah,
that. Like you've obviously explained, it's supporting people emotionally. It's looking at what I call preventative strategies, because
yeah.
anyone can hold their hand up and say, oh yeah, I eat too much. Tell me how to stop. I'm like, well, I can tell you how to stop, but if we don't understand the why, then it's just going to
Yeah.
keep happening. Okay. So we've got to get to the root of it, you know, and like we've said before, your root was burnout from work, burnout from the pressures that you were putting on yourself, and
Mhm.
participating in toxic diet culture for
Yeah.
about a decade of your adult life, trying to solve this problem, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's also the other thing I remember very early on was how full I felt on very little, like very in my head, very little calories, if that makes sense. More like the mechanics behind it. And I was like, wow, on 2,000 calories, I feel so full. When I suppose before that, I was eating what, 3 to 4,000 and feeling empty all the time. And it was that shift in mindset. I think it was also, you always talk about like food doesn't have necessarily a like emotional attachment to it. It doesn't have like a good or a bad or an evil side to it. And it's that 80-20 mindset you got me into. So it was like, I've always been that type of person. If there's a share bar of chocolate in the house, I'm going to eat the whole share bar. I'm never going to just have a little bit of it. And then you were like, well, why don't you just have an individual bar? And I was like, I never thought of it like that. And little things like that. So it was like just changing how you view food and not necessarily attaching guilt or shame to it. So it's like, yes, you've had a takeaway. You can eat better tomorrow. It's not a big deal. Yes, you've had an entire bag of like minstrels or whatever. It's not a big deal because you can sort it out later. And it was that all or nothing mindset I think you get into with diet culture. It's like, I have to be all the time on plan good, and if I have one day off it, I'm an absolute failure.
Yeah.
It's that mindset that was there.
Breaking the all or nothing mindset is like going through that toxic a breakup with a toxic ex, you've just gotta
Yeah,
finally do it and then it's done, and that's what people do, and that's what I aim to teach them on the program. The opposite of
yeah,
all or nothing is just little and something. So instead of
yeah,
being all in and then, "Oh, I've had one day where I've ruined it, I might as well give up and binge for the week," it's like, "Okay, I had a bad day yesterday," and how many times would you have checked in with me over the time we were on the program and went, "Sam, I struggled yesterday. I'm letting you know
yeah,
now. There was this situation that triggered me. In that moment, I reacted by eating this, but I've got the tools to move on." And you
yeah,
check in with me the next day, I didn't continue it on. Well, you've just broken the all or nothing mindset because you just had one day that's less than perfect, but you might have felt the emotion that go with that, the frustration, the sense of like anger and whatever that's happened. But you're able to go, right, I don't have to characterize myself as good and bad. And it's not a moral failure. I just reacted emotionally, but I can deal with it. And it's giving you those tools, whether it's the eighty
yeah,
20 rule, whether it's the food noise framework, the SOS method, a bunch of different
yeah,
behavior frameworks that I give you. It allows you to navigate through those challenges despite being less than perfect.
yeah.
So my next question for you, Paige, is basically, was there a moment during the initial 90 days when you were like, I finally believe in myself more now than when I doubt myself? When was that pivotal moment for you when you were like, I think I've got this. I think I can do this now. I'm working towards becoming me.
I think it was there was a situation between me and my partner. There was a conversation that was happening, and I regurgitated something that you would have said, and Jack went, "Oh, that's Sam talking, that is." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Okay." And it was this kind of like, it was just a moment where I was like, "Do you know what? I think I'm all right, I think I'm okay. I think like I can handle that." And I had moments where I can remember talking to you on the phone where I had a really bad day at work and someone basically said something to me that I took really personally in the moment. And I was like, why would they think that of me? Like, I've always said this, teachers have a God complex. It's like we're ego driven or whatever. And I was like, why would someone think that of me? And I can remember sitting with it and just going, well, that's their opinion. That's fine. And I have never in my life been able to do that. I am an overthinker. I worry about everything, like little things that people say, and I'll sit with it and I'll overthink it and I'll imagine like different scenarios and what if I said this, that, or the other. And I just went, that's their opinion, that's okay. And I think it was that. I think it was not worrying about what other people thought of me was the moment that I went, do you know what? I think I'm okay. And I can remember saying to you as well, like when I was pregnant with this one that's causing me lots of issues right now next to me, I said to you, like, it genuinely feels like I'm coming to the end of like a friendship or a breakup or something with you because of the emotional support that is there, like constantly. But I also knew I'd be okay. I knew I'd be fine because I'm 7 months postpartum, heavier than I'd like to be, but equally I know that that's fine, and it's just the way my body's like had to cope with pregnancy, and I will get back to what I want to be, but I'm in no rush to do that. Whereas I always thought when I was younger that pregnancy would be the thing that spiraled me into a full-blown eating disorder. Like I've believed like all my life I've got disordered eating. I just never was at the point where it was like a risk to my health, if that makes sense. So it wouldn't have been like medically diagnosed or whatever. But I did think that that would be the trigger that pushed me over the edge to be that point. And I think without this program, without like working on myself, without talking to my own head a lot of the time, I would have been like that. But because I think there's a module that you do, it's about sitting with your emotions And I've never been like, I never thought of doing that. I've always been like, I'm upset, so I push it down. Like, I'm angry, so I push it down. And it was like, just let yourself feel it for a minute. Doesn't mean you have to be horrible to anyone, doesn't mean you have to explode at anyone or whatever. Just sit with your feelings for a minute and let it pass through. It's the energy into emotion
Yeah. The energy and
module.
motion cycle, the four
Yeah.
quadrants, recognizing where you're at then. So yeah, it sounds mad, but I would never use this word. But it's almost like I do life coaching for emotional eaters. That's literally what this is. Because I can only teach you so much about how to track calories, how to lose weight, what you should be doing to set up the physical habits that create weight loss and better eating habits. Like, you know all of that. But it's all of the other stuff. And if any of my clients can't handle life challenges, they can't deal with relationship conflicts, they can't manage their self care outside of work, they can't manage their emotions, then it doesn't matter what I'm teaching them, it's not going to translate. So it's almost like, and you can maybe tell me if I'm right or wrong here, the coaching that I do, it's like a 50-50 hybrid between helping with your physical habits and then helping with your mindset. And the combination of those two together is what creates the long-term changes, which then results in weight loss as well. And I think that's what's missing for a lot of people. They know the physical stuff inside out, but when push comes to shove, Paige, they just can't handle their big emotions. And that's what causes them to quit and give up and overeat, isn't it?
Yeah. I found sitting with myself quite hard initially. Because the questionnaires that you do every week, it's like, well, what did good? And I have always been very good at telling you how bad I am and like how this, that, and the other went wrong. And to just sitting there and saying, like, what's your win this week was probably the hardest for me to start with. And then because for me, a win and it originally had to feel like a life changing like achievement. It had to be something big and grand or whatever. And I think one of my very early wins was I walked the dog after work and I felt calm. I had a bath and read 3 chapters of a book and felt calm. I didn't work on the weekend. It started turning into things like that. And I think when you are very career driven, and I know you know this personally as well, sometimes you sack every other part of your life off to be the best you can possibly be in that moment. And I think the other thing that really changed me is having kids and just knowing that my non-negotiable, and I know you talk about like your non-negotiables with yourself and the promises you won't break to yourself, is that work won't come above them. And it's nothing major, like or anything like that. I just have experienced a childhood where career was very important to my parents because that's what they thought was a valuable childhood, having material gains and things like that. Whereas for me, my goal is to be present in my kids' childhoods. And it's one of the reasons I became a teacher. But then I realised I was falling into the trap of like putting work above everything. I gave up hobbies. I gave up spending time with my partner. I gave up everything just to be the best I could possibly be at work for it to be okay, it's all right, see you tomorrow. Not necessarily like God star or anything.
Yeah, if you remember, I remember this conversation, Paige, and you'll remember it as well. When basically you taught me a message when Sam, like, I love teaching, but it's not my main purpose anymore. My main purpose is to be a mum. I was born to be a mum, and it was just like a full circle moment where you were like you just totally integrated all the other parts of your life that you'd just been
Yeah,
let go of. And like you said before, 3 or 4 years ago, before you maybe had children, you couldn't even imagine yourself being like that. You almost considered the all or nothing mindset of I'll have
yeah,
to leave work and never go back in order to have a family, and you were frightened of that. And then obviously when it happened, you were like,
yeah,
wow, I've been training myself for years for this
yeah,
moment. And that was a big moment for me as your coach to look at, because I was like, this is the lady who reached out to me, who was pedestalizing her self-work as how successful she is at work and how much of a people pleaser she is, or a problem solver for other people. Two
yeah,
years later, now she's messaging me saying, Sam, my job's second to me and my family. Like, that was a full circle moment. And
yeah,
that's what it's all about. That's why I love coaching people. It's not just about the physical weight loss. We can talk about that until the cows come home. I've helped thousands of people lose a bunch of weight, but it's seeing people get their life back and build a life that they no longer want to escape from anymore, that brings them so much joy. That is the main pleasure that I get out of coaching. So my next question for you, which you're probably going to get straight into, is how has your life now changed compared to when you first started the program versus now? The results you've got, the mindset shifts, and how is
yeah.
life different for you?
I don't value work above anything else. I used to be the person that would check emails on the weekends, check emails after work, and you check emails, you see something you don't wanna see, ruins your evening, ruins your weekend, there's nothing you can do till the Monday. I got into I and I have and I know this goes against everything you say, like, I was very much a wing it person. I was like, "I'll just go and see how the day gets," and it was little things like, make sure you've got a food shop in, that everyone knows, but, like, I needed that pointed out to me at the time, like, "Make sure you've got a food shop in." You only need to work around the hours that you were essentially paid, so I don't work at home as much as I can, if that makes sense. So, like, if I have to work at home, I plan it in now, so I will make sure it doesn't impact my children, it doesn't impact something going on with my partner or anything like that. I don't work on the weekends unless I have to. I am very much present in the moment. I am authentically eating, I think, is one of the things that you say. So I eat essentially what I want. I focus on like protein and like nutrients and things like that. But when I was pregnant with my son, I didn't worry or stress about food and weight or anything like that. And I can remember when I was pregnant with my daughter 3 years ago, that little niggle back here. And I think from the program, from the fact that food doesn't have an emotional value for me anymore. I am very good at articulating how I feel. I'm very good at putting it out there. I'm very good now at putting a boundary up. And I think that was the thing I was missing most. I would do things that would make me feel uncomfortable for the sake of someone else's comfort. And I don't really do that anymore. I go, here's my line. I'm not willing to cross it. And you can feel how you want to feel about that. But this is my feeling and I'm gonna protect it. And again, I think having children does that to you as well. I think like I don't want them to become the worst version of me, if that makes sense. So I want them to see me being the best version of me, and your program had like helped me to get there in terms of just working on the small little parts of me that were very fragile, very vulnerable, very much pushed to the side because I didn't think they were perfect and I didn't think they had a role essentially.
Yeah. And I don't think you intended it working out like this, and I certainly didn't intend on it working out like this. But from what you've taught me, it's almost like this program, your time on the coaching program, give you all of the tools to be able to get yourself mentally in shape to be ready to start a family. So in a weird way, it sort of prepared you for motherhood, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. There was the whole you did it was you and a guest speaker, and you were talking about emotional trauma and, like, inherited trauma, and I think that is just when my brain went, "No, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. This is us breaking the cycle for future generations," and I would be really upset if my daughter in the future was so much about her weight that she hadn't eaten for a week or was working herself into the floor because she thought that was her only value in society. And it's weird because you start being like food and exercise and stuff, but we always talked about this, resonated with the more spiritual, philosophical side of the course that you do with when you get the big speakers in that come and talk. They were always my favourite. I wasn't very good at being there in the moment in terms of fitting it in, but I'd always make time to like watch the recap or whatever and discuss it in the feedback sheets that we would talk about or on a call or in the monthly catch-ups that you do as well. I think that was the most enlightening because I am an educator and I do value education. So it was that kind of idea of learning more. And I think you get to a point in adulthood where you're like, I don't need to learn anything now. I'm done. Like I'm fully shaped. And I think that was equally what was holding me back.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I remember when I was coaching you, you were definitely self-led. You didn't need me babysitting you, but you had that structure, those touch points with me where you knew
Yeah.
if you were struggling, you could reach out, But once I laid those steps out for you, the blueprint, I just see myself as an architecture. I'm not telling you what to eat. I'm not forcing you to do anything. I just say these are the strategies that I think will work. I'm going to hold you accountable and be on your case in a nice way. Give you that combination of emotional support plus an arse kicking when you need it. is the sweet spot for people like yourself who are high performers and who value education, who then mentally know what to do. They just need a structured setup in order to do it. And once that just set you off, you were just like a machine that just got results consistently over time. So I've got one or two more questions for you, Paige. If
Mhm.
there's people listening right now who resonate with, yeah, I'm also someone who prioritizes work and people pleasing and just seeing my self worth and my performance, and sacrificing my self care. And I'm also someone who struggles with emotional eating. I'm resonating with Paige's story right now. What advice would you tell them? What advice would you give them about what they really need to start working on and start changing on, and possibly even considering investing in themselves, or even acknowledging, yeah, I am using food as a coping mechanism. What advice would you have for those people?
I think it's you've gotta get uncomfortable with yourself before you get comfortable with yourself. I think you've gotta pick apart the things you don't like about yourself, because it's one of those moments where I was very skeptical of this program working or talking to you, and I think I saw a lot of your videos the year before while lockdown was happening, while COVID was happening, and I was like, yeah, he's talking good talk, but it's not going to work, and blah blah blah. I think you've got to take that risk, and I genuinely think sometimes if I hadn't have found the program, I probably wouldn't be here. That is my genuine thought sometimes, not as the person I am now in
Yeah,
terms of the secure, the well-rounded, and it's not even like I just found my confidence again in terms of it's trial and error. You would say something and I would go, oh, I don't really think that's the right thing to do, but I'd try it anyway, if that makes sense. And I would be skeptical about things and they would work. And I think that's the thing. Like you try it and you go, yeah, that actually helped. And I can always remember a lot of the things you would tell me, I would try on the kids at work and it worked for them. So seeing it help them then helped me to shape me, if that makes sense. So my advice would be just try it, just do it, just be brave. And the bravest thing you can do, and I learned this very, very much on this program, is ask for help and talk to people. And even if it's having those, I can remember saying to you, I don't want to talk to people, I don't want to have those horrible, scary conversations. Sometimes you have to do it. Sometimes you just have to do it because there's no way around it. And you're just going to be stuck in this cycle of hating that you can't speak and then eating and then going back and then hating your body and just like constantly going around. So I think my biggest bit of advice would be to just do it, just take the jump, ask for help. And then everything else falls into place as it goes. Just try it. Just see what you can do.
no, that's really good advice. And I always say this, that the needs that you don't meet will cause you to eat. And if someone's listening to this right now who's like, yeah, I feel like I'm a people pleaser, I'm burnt out, I'm exhausted, I'm doing everything for everyone else, but no time for me. Food has become my coping mechanism, and it doesn't matter how much I want to lose weight or improve my physical health and my habits. If I'm not working on this, it's not going to work. I think that penny has to drop. In transformational energy, Page, it's not comfortable. Like you said, it's a rock bottom moment where you were like, I'm struggling here and I don't know if I can do this on my own. People like to think it's this like romantic, sexy thing of, ooh, I feel amazing now. I'm finally ready to change and the planets are aligning. Everything's fantastic. That's not real life. Real life
Yeah.
is, unfortunately, I've tried so hard on my own and I've failed and I'm miserable and I'm spiraling. It's at that point when you have the courage to go, you know what? I think I should ask for help. That's
Yeah.
when transformation starts. And if, like you said, if you never reach that moment, you might not be the
Yeah.
version you are right now. And
Yeah.
that's powerful, man. So
I
before I
think
let you go, Paige,
sorry.
anything else? Anything finally you want to say?
Yeah, I think the one most powerful thing you ever said to me was if I had a magic wand, Paige, and I could make you thin right now, would you be happy? And I went, no. And it was that moment that actually my self-worth is not defined by how I look or what I weigh. It was that I could give you the world tomorrow, would you be happy? And I didn't even have to think about it. My immediate answer was no. And I think that's the moment where you go, okay, something needs to change.
Yeah. So the analogy that I use just before we finish off, weight loss is the cherry on top of the cake, but building a life that you no longer want to escape from emotionally anymore, that's the cake. right? Or building the beautiful house that you want to build. If it's on sand, it doesn't matter. And that's what people are doing when they're just chasing weight loss, when I ask them that question. If I could give you a dream body now with the flick of my magic wand, would you be
Yeah.
happy? If the answer is no, then that's not me saying don't pursue weight loss. That's
Yeah.
me saying build some solid ground, get some solid ground underneath you, and then pursue weight loss. And that is what my program is. The first 90 days that someone works with me, it's like, let's get all of the foundations in place in your life. So you're like, right, I don't want to escape anymore. I feel happier in myself. I feel happier in my life. I feel happier in my relationships. I feel like my life is on stable ground. Then when you try and lose weight, you'll realize, I don't want to say the word effortless because you have to put effort in.
Mhm.
It's not easy. It's difficult, but it's
Yeah.
simple. And before your life is built on solid ground, aka I don't have a life that I want to escape from anymore, weight loss will be a futile effort, you know? So yeah, that question with the one, that's powerful. So Paige, I just want to thank you for coming on. Like I say, it's been a
No
year
problem.
since I spoke to you in person, apart from a few WhatsApps, and it's always great to catch up. And the one
Yeah.
thing I love about the thousands of clients I've coached is people reach out to me every year who are not on the program, but they just literally tell me, Sam, I'm still doing well. I'm watching these videos still. Just thought I'd give you an update. They are my most enjoyable messages to see because that's really the most important part of my job. It's seeing people flourish on their own. So I just want to thank you, Paige, for obviously the time we work together and coming on and doing this little podcast. I really appreciate it. And your
Yeah.
little
No.
boy making a guest appearance as well.
Yeah.
Great. I'll let you go, Paige. You take care, all right?
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.